David Lynch is dead. Yeah. This one really hurts. So I'm recording this Thursday evening, January 16th. I heard the news. My texts were flooded with different messages saying sorry about David Lynch, and I didn't know until I got some texts, and then I looked at my feeds, and yeah. I'm just beyond devastated right now. It's just wasn't expected, but it was kind of expected, you know, his emphysema and health issues, being a smoker, you know, I knew that he was declining, but it just seems very sudden and shocking. And, you know, we just got word that he got to safety from the California fires that are happening right now. And yeah, beyond gutted, beyond devastated. My heart is just heavy. It's just filled with a lot of grief. So background, if you're new to this channel or not subscribed yet or whatever, David Lynch was and still is my all-time favorite filmmaker. His films really changed my viewpoint of what films can be, of how far you can take a story, how twist up you can make it, how abstract you can make it. You know, I'm wearing my Mulholland Drive shirt. Mulholland Drive is my all-time favorite film, and it's my favorite film from him. And this just hurts. I'm not going to lie. I had another video planned, but I'm putting a pin on it for now. I just wanted to get on and talk about this. And yeah, I just... it's kind of hit me, but it hasn't really hit me that much. But just thinking about his work and, you know, everything that he's given us, a full life, his full art life that he has given us, that he gave us is nothing short of extraordinary and magnificent. You know, every frame, every scene, every piece of music and score and cinematography and lighting and everything about it was just so artful and so creative, and just everything that you would want in a film. And the David Lynch film, he definitely gave us 10 great films plus Twin Peaks series, Twin Peaks. It's nothing short of extraordinary. And, you know, there were times where he would release films after film, then he would stop, and, you know, there'd be hiatuses and things like that. I never really got to experience a film of his when it would first come out. I have seen special screenings of a lot of his films on the big screen, so I've definitely experienced them theatrically. Now on my fucking phone.
Such a sadness that you think you've seen a film on your fucking telephone.
You know, it's just such a gift. It's such a gift that he gave us with each film. You know, I'd be remiss to say that, you know, he brought something new and extraordinary to filmmaking, that there wouldn't be these types of art house films if it wasn't for him, in terms of experimentation, in terms of even new neo-noir, even, you know, in terms of abstract storytelling, he brought it all. He brought everything. And, we just loved him. We all just fucking loved him for it in every sense of the word. A little background, I first experienced David Lynch with Blue Velvet. When I was 19, I rented it from my local library, and I was kind of afraid. So I heard some things about David Lynch. I knew about Twin Peaks. I was mainly into the X-Files growing up, and I knew that Twin Peaks had come before it, and it was David Duchovny was in that, and played, a trans character and everything like that. And I was curious. And I went into it without really knowing anything, and I was traumatized to my core in the best way possible. I hated the experience. I thought it was too much. It rattled me, but, something grew within me. This curiosity for film really grew within me. I've always loved movies. I've always loved film and television, but not on this level, and not to the abstract or the experimental. And, you could probably list and throughout film history, there Maya Deren and Trafkowski, and, there's been a lot of experimental filmmakers, that kind of push things forward. And for me, that was David Lynch. For me, he broke down barriers I did not know existed within myself, and brought along so much joy, so much fear, so much mystery. You always got more and more and more out of rewatching his films. And, I'm definitely a big believer in, if a film doesn't have rewatchability, then it's not really worth anything. But his film's worth everything to me. So yeah, I was 19. I saw Blue Velvet. It blew my fucking mind. It traumatized me and made me scared. And years later, his films kept getting recommended to me. I was still kind of scared from my Blue Velvet experience, but I was always curious about Twin Peaks. I was always curious about his films. And then I saw Mulholland Drive, which was my second foray into my Lynch viewing experience. And I was very frustrated, but I knew that there was something more that was there. And once I peeled the layers and went down the rabbit holes and looked up different interpretations and things like that, I knew that this was something special, and I fell in love. A love affair of Lynch and his films, a love affair that would last a lifetime, that will last my entire life, no matter what. I went back. I saw Eraserhead. I saw Elephant Man. I did see Dune as a young child, but, we don't really talk about Dune. Not really. Lynch, was always adamant on not being proud of that. And, I kind of, understand that there was a lot of interference and it wasn't his true vision. A lot of people count it. I don't really count it. That's just me. But moving on. There was this magical, mysterious sense about him, about the man who he was, about the person that he was. And there's a lot of darkness to him, I'm sure, but there's also a lot of light and a lot of hope. Because in a lot of his films, especially his earlier films, there's like a hopeful sense of happy endings. And we definitely got some happy endings, some not so happy endings within his work. And, I went through his work, and each one meant a lot to me. I went, like I said, back, into Eraserhead, Elephant Man, Twin Peaks, Fire Walk with Me. I saw Fire Walk with Me first before I saw the show, which wasn't the most logical choice because it kind of ruined the reveals of the original 2 seasons of the series. But, it was still an amazing experience jumping into that. Jumping into Lost Highway, the only film of his that came out during my peak love affair of his was Inland Empire, and I didn't get to see it in the theater, unfortunately. He was touring the film famously. It didn't really get a theatrical distribution release, and it was unfortunate. And he would come and have a Q&A. I really wanted to go to the Q&A, but I just didn't have the money to, or I didn't have the time, or life just got in the way, as it does. And that's one regret I do have. I never got to see him speak. I never got to see him live. Not so much into the transcendental meditation, or however you say it. I like meditation, but there are areas of that felt kind of scammy to me. But to each their own, and it definitely worked for him, and I'm glad it did, because he was able to kind of pinpoint and hone in a lot of productivity and positivity within himself to go through these dark emotions and these dark areas of storytelling. And I'm sure, I have online friends who adore his work, who adore what he has, portrayed about abuse in relationships and trauma and the dark night of the soul, the dark psychology of the soul. And it's just such, an amazing connection pinpoint to have with people in the community. And even though I've kind of sworn off bits and parts of especially the Twin Peaks fan community, I still very much love the relationships that I have held on to, that have grown, that have been long friendships, even just if they're just online. But I digress. Seeing his films for the first time is an experience that I wish I could relive. I didn't always understand what was going on, but I definitely had a very deep love and appreciation for the ride we were going on. And, I would try to show friends Mulholland Drive or Lost Highway, and, be met with very hostile and very negative, reactions to it. It's not always easy being a David Lynch fan, because, when he was alive, a lot of voices, were very critical of him for the way he tells his stories, the way he goes into the abstract, that, that there needs to be an explanation for everything. And, I just feel like that wasn't him at all. And, he would famously not answer any questions about his films. He kind of famously said, the film is the film. And, once the work is done, the work of the film is done. And, I think that's really great. I like when people do commentaries and filmmakers talk about their work. That's great. But, it's not always necessary. And it does take, to him, I feel like he felt it took away the magic of people having their own experience, their own vital experience with everything in his films. Maybe he didn't always know where he was going with things. I mean, he wrote Inland Empire as he was filming it, and he wrote it as they were filming it. So, that's his most mindfuck of a film, so to speak. And just everything about him, the way he made films, the way he made music. I'm a big fan of his music. Albums like Crazy Clown Time and The Big Dream are fantastic. All his collaborations with Chris Ball and all his musical collaborations, especially with the great late Angelo Badalamenti, one of my all-time favorite, film composers. And he has left quite the legacy that will be hard to follow up by anyone. And you can see influences, today. You can see the intent and influence, but, I feel like filmmakers are kind of taking their own ways of influence and honing it in their own voice, in their own way. And, and proudly using the Lynchian aesthetic. I think that's an amazing thing. He meant a lot to me, meant a lot to so many people. I saw my Twitter flooded with just things about David Lynch. Like all my social media is just, flooded with things about musings about David Lynch. And, sure, it's really hard for a lot of who are close to him, Mark Frost, Naomi Watts, Laura Dern. He had such a profound impact on everybody, and he was someone who really embraced different technologies when it came to filmmaking. He embraced digital, which a lot of naysayers, said no to digital. A lot of purists like Nolan and Tarantino flat out refused digital. Or someone like me who grew up really poor with just like video cameras, I used to make movies in stop motion with video, and I grew up on video. And when he made Inland Empire, he made it completely digital on the Sony PD-150. He completely just created something magical with it. A lot of people might disagree, but I think that film has a lot of magical scenes and sequences and things like that. It inspired me to make my own film, which I haven't shown to a lot of people besides a few screenings and things like that, but inspired me to be a filmmaker, to want to be a filmmaker. And even though I've been out of practice, that's still something I definitely will always take with me, is his influence and his passion for cinema, for telling unique stories, for diving into the abstract, whether it be film or painting or television or music. He kind of did it all. He was a multifaceted artist. He didn't always knew he was going to be a filmmaker. He started out as an artist, as a painter, and that delved into little stop motion animations, and that delved into film. It took him 5 years to make Eraserhead, and it's just his commitment and willingness to keep going, to want to create, to want to live the art life is just so inspiring to me and to so many other people. His philosophy on work ethic and productivity and creativity is just so magical to me. It's so inspiring, it's so uplifting.
And so you just stay alert, do your work, don't worry about the world going by. It doesn't mean that you can sit around and not do anything. You've got to get your butt in gear and do it.
Everything about him is just so interesting. Yeah, he was a kooky character, his later years was a lot more kind of content exposed to his kind of quirkiness and his eccentricities, and I'm butchering words here because I'm just so really choked up about all this. It's really hard to let go now because we will never get another David Lynch film. We will never get another TV series or album or whatnot. I know a lot of people were really hammering for another season of Twin Peaks. And I just loved his originality. I think, even though I fucking love Twin Peaks, don't get me wrong, but I loved his willingness to dive into the different unknown, especially with Twin Peaks: The Return. He had that foreground of Twin Peaks, but he dived into more unknown and more mystery and kind of returned it to be what it was supposed to be, a mysterious show that had noir sensibilities, and he returned it to that, quote unquote, not to be punny, but he brought so much feeling, so much humanity to his stories and his characters, while dealing with the most crazy, psychotic, fucked up scenarios that you would ever be in. He also did some of the most hilarious scenes I've ever seen on film. He was able to switch those tones from comedy to drama to psychological thriller to horror to so many different genres, whereas we have the term Lynchian, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that word. I know it might be overused. I know people are kind of, we'll call them pretentious and, things of that nature. And there are times, and there'll still be times where people won't understand his work, that will mock and ridicule him and his line of work. To say, oh, Blue Velvet was great, but I don't know, the first season of Twin Peaks was great, but I don't know about that The Return or Mulholland Drive or Lost Highway. He got burned a lot. And it was always sad to see that, because we didn't know. I mean, I'd say we, the critical consensus, didn't know what they had in the palm of their hands when it would come out. Granted, I didn't get to experience it firsthand. I kind of came after it all happened. It was, great to see Inland Empire when it first came out, even just on DVD. And it was great to see the return air week to week, that kind of excitement of living, of, having Twin Peaks for my generation, for millennials and things like that, was really, really great. And now he's gone. But my motivation for this video isn't to make it a sad one or a tragic one. I really feel I want to express how special his work means to me and so many other people, I'm sure. And we should always celebrate his work and celebrate his genius in whatever fashion. And there are, of course, new films and new shows to discover and appreciate, and that will always be a good thing. But it's also good to treasure and cherish what he gave to each and every one of us, which was his artistry, his brilliance, and everything in between. He definitely had what looks to be a crazy life. He was quite private in some areas, and, the guy was married at least 4 times, so, But despite that, he made something so beautiful. He motivates me to want to be a creative person. He motivates me to want to express myself in every way, every sense of the word. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to celebrate the man's work, and I'm going to be a creative person for as long as I live, because I love David Lynch so much, and he meant the world to me. And that's all you can really do. He was such a force, such just brilliant in every sense of the word, and there'll never be another one like him. Yeah, they'll have influences across other people's work. He influences me, and yeah, I really don't know what else to say. I come here to sob and cry because I have a hard time crying sometimes over artists that I really love, and David Lynch is no exception to that. But all in all, I just feel really happy I exist during his lifetime, and I was able to see his work, see the man, see his impact on everything. And yeah, I missed opportunities to see him speak, and that's a bummer. But it's what's great about the internet, it's, and YouTube, it's packed with so many speeches and Q&As and just things like that. That really show us who he was and what he wanted to bring into the world. And he brought so much great things, and I'm forever appreciative. I really don't know what else to say. I love David Lynch, and I want to make more of an effort to make more David Lynch review type style content, whether it be a traditional review or a video essay or something. I definitely want to make content expressing how I feel for the man. And yeah, so that was a long ramble. I was kind of ranty, I know. I'm filled with so many emotions that it's hard to pinpoint exact thesis for this. So this is just me rambling on about how much I love and appreciate David Lynch and his work to the world. And so if you stuck around, I thank you. But that's going to be it. Please like and subscribe if you'd be so kind. My name is George Ray. Please remember to keep calm, keep cool, keep chill, keep Lynchian. Embrace David Lynch, embrace the world. If you haven't seen any of his films, do yourself a favor and immediately, get on it. I would start with Eraserhead or Blue Velvet as an entry point. But, whatever looks most interesting to you. I'll see you on the next one. Until then, peace out. And transcend on, Mr. David Lynch.